Who's ready to do some percentages? Today we're only going to look at 10%. It's the first percentage that you need to learn, and it forms a block of working out any other percentage like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You can work them all out if you can work out 10% first. If you remember just one thing from today, make sure the main thing you remember is that to find 10%, you divide by 10. To find 10%, divide by 10. Okay, let's have a go at this. Now, it can be really helpful when you're dividing by 10 or finding 10% or finding 1/10, because they're all the same thing, to make a note of all of the place value columns. People will call them different things depending on how you learn it, and that's completely fine. So for me, here's the decimal point, and then we've got the ones column, the tens column, and the hundreds column. On the other side, showing parts of whole numbers, we've got the tenths column and the hundredths column with a TH on the end. So in terms of money, these first three here, they would represent the pounds. So you can have hundreds of pounds, tens of pounds, ones of pounds. And on the other side of the decimal point, these smaller ones, the tenths, the hundredths, and if you go into accounting, the thousandths, these are the pence. Okay, they're not a whole number in themselves. So it's useful to bear these in mind anytime you're dividing by 10. Let's have a go. So here we're finding 10% of an amount. So first of all, I'll do this half and then I'll put some questions here for you to practice with. I'm gonna keep my place value columns at hand just in case they're useful. First question here, we've got 10% of £120. So let's just consider what £120 looks like in terms of place value. It's 100, 2 tens, and no ones or units. And if I'm dividing by 10, all I do is I move this whole number one column to the right. I'm finding part of the whole, so the answer should be smaller. So here it goes, whoop, and there's it in its new place. So I've got 1 in the tens column and a 2 in the ones column. My decimal point would now be here. So that is going to give me £12, which I can write as £12 or 12.00 pounds. Same thing. Next one. 10% of £80. Now you might have noticed a little pattern here. Ooh, what's going on? We had £120 and when we divided by 10 we got 12. So you can see the zeros just come off the end. That does work here. So 10% of £80, it is £8. I can just take the zero off the end. But sometimes the number doesn't end in a zero, and this is where we run into a problem. So if I'm doing 10% of £76, that's why it's useful to think of things in terms of these columns. So let's fill in, what would £76 look like? Well, that's 7 in the tens column and a 6 in the ones column. I'm dividing by 10, so my number is getting smaller. Everything moves over one column because 10 has 1 0 at the end. And now my decimal point is here and I've got £7.60. In this case, you have to put that 0 on the end there because money always has 2 decimal places. Okay, what's going on here? 10% of £9. Definitely can't take a 0 off the end of this. So let's have a look. That's 9 in the ones column. If I move this one column over, I will now have a 9 in the tenths column. But to show where that is, to show that it's a pence, I'm going to have to fill in, there are no ones. I've still got my decimal point. And because it's money, it has to go to 2 decimal places here. So that will have to be £0.90. Or it could be written as 90 pence. But you'd have to make it very clear with your pound sign or your pence which one it is. Okay, last one, and this is a challenge. 10% of £15.50. Let's fill it in. So we've got £15.50, so we already have a decimal point in this one. £15.50. Whoop. Best zero I've ever done in my life. I'm gonna divide everything by 10, so I move it one place over. And now I'm gonna end up with 1 in the ones column, a 5 in the tenths column, and a 5 in the hundredths column. The 0 goes over the edge here into the thousandths column, which we're not interested in for money, but that's fine because it's a 0. So that will be £1.50 5. Okay, so here are some questions for you. Why not have a pause and try? Right, time for answers. 10% of £230. Remember your pound sign? That is £23. 10% of £40, we can just take the 0 off there because it ends in a 0. That's going to be £4. 10% of £99. Ooh, tough one. Remember to use your place value columns. That is going to be £9.90. Very important you put that 0 on the end there when you're dealing with money. 10% of £7? Harder even still. That's going to be £0.70 or 70 pence. And 10% of £7.50, well done if you managed to get this one. That is 75 pence or 0.75 pounds. Let me know how you got on with those questions. Thank you so much for putting the time and effort into your maths whilst we're going through all of this madness. I'm really glad you're taking the time to work on yourself and improve your studies, and I'll see you next time.